Yesterday, Ciara was preaching on the word Sati and elaboration on that sentence with Okanditwa Pavuditi. So the meaning of this phrase is, whenever we note to the object, our noting mind as if it plunged into or it immersed into or pierced into the object. And that way of plunging or piercing is not in a slow manner. That meaning is it should have a rushing manner, and it should be in the object as if it is sinking or as if it is plunging into the object. And that way of noting with rushing mind or plunging mind onto the object is not covering the partial of the object. It should be completely covering the object. So yesterday Ciara was explaining on this meaning of Pandita. That was completely covering, just like spreading on something. Your mind, noting mind, should be spreading on the object, or it is enveloping on the object. So the summarization of this meaning is complete covering or complete spreading or enveloping onto that object. So much so that as it covers, it is as it grabs or it holds to the object. So how from our noting mind, with complete covering and noting in a rushing manner, how we can grasp and hold on to the object, Ciara will explain further with literature as well with practice going in hand. In our meditation, whatever the object occurred, then to that object, as we focus our mind, we must be covering on the noting mind, should be covering on the object. It should be completely covering or spreading over the object. So the main point we should understand is there should be a complete covering or complete enveloping onto the object, whatever the object we may be noting. So, for example, is if we are noting to the rising phenomenon, our noting mind should be completely noting onto the object with our mind covering on it. Likewise, if we are noting on the falling too, our noting mind should be completely covering on the falling process too. So in that way, if our mind can cover on the whole process of this rising and falling, then we will be understanding the true characteristics as hardness, softness, roughness, flowing nature, stickiness, hot, warmth, cold, stiffness, tension, motion, etc., as well to the lifting, pushing forward and stepping down. There are numerous things one will come to understand. So Ciara explained, because as Ciara have pointed out in that manner, how are we going to cover to that object? Maybe yogi may be thinking in that way. So at times, sometimes when we focus our mind onto the object, the scope of the object maybe sometimes it will be quite wide or big. So we must make a boundary onto the object. For example, make a boundary or a demarcation onto the object. That is called as a covering onto the object. So for example, if we follow to the rising phenomenon, as soon as the motion on that rising phenomenon started, then till it reached to the end of that process, our mind must be completely covering or enveloping onto the object, so much so that that scope of our objective field confined only onto that object. So likewise, if we are following to the falling process too, if we mark with our mind completely covering onto the process of falling, then with that demarcation or making a boundary from our mind, because it covers completely, so we will be able to follow from the beginning to the end of the process. So this is the way to come to see the object nature clearly. Sarah gave an example like, if you are looking into a group photo, you want to see a certain person clearly. But if you are looking into the group photo just as it is, you cannot point out the person you want to look carefully. So that you have to make a boundary to that person, or make a circular on him, or make a mark on him, so that you can see to that person in a group photo clearly. So likewise, whether we are following the rising or to the falling of the object, we must be following it from the beginning to the end of the process, making a demarcation or a boundary onto that object as our mind is completely covering or enveloping on it to come to understand the nature. So in that way, if we are able to in that way of covering or enveloping or spreading over onto the object with our noting mind, then there is nothing will be left out from your observation mind. Because with that concise noting or condensed noting, then you come to understand all the truth of the nature. So that's why Sarah says, this is the way how we will come to understand the nature of the object. So to come to reach to that level is, as we are practicing so, as we goes on practicing, when the time to come with our right mind to understand all these natural, all these nature, we will come to understand. Sarah explained, in this world, if you have to go to a place which is not safe at all, or it can even endanger to you, then you need to have a sentry all over in every direction, or you have to spread out the guards so that you are staying in safety. So only when the guards are filled or spread out in every corner, then your life is safe. So likewise, in our mind too, if we have to note onto the object, that's why it is very important to spread out, to cover up or covering or spreading from our noting mind and completely enveloping onto the object as soon as it occurred. So if we can note it instantly onto the object as soon as it occurred with that prescribed nature as covering, spreading or enveloping, then that is the time our noting mind is getting upper hand, or in the substitute of kilesa, we are getting the upper hand. So that's why Sarah gave in the last lecture too, Sarah have explained to us that this khanda, this mind and matter, is nama rupa, is the bhumi. Bhumi means it is the domain or abode. So this earth is the abode or domain for all the living and non-living things on this earth. Not only the living, all the other creatures, plus all different types of trees, and there may be among the trees too, they are useful and unuseful, or poisonous, and weeds are also growing on the tree. So that's why this body, mind and matter aggregate is equivalent like a bhumi, like the earth or the abode to oneself. So on this earth, if the land is not cleared up or make up properly, then all the weeds or unuseful plants or the poisonous plants will be growing. But if you have a land and you want to make it a useful land, then you have to you have to take out all these weeds and poisonous plants. So how we have to make it useful on that land is, you need to do what you have to do by killing the weeds and take out some of the young plants which are not useful in the field of your plantation. So not only that, for the plants you are going to for the tree you are going to plant on that site, you need to prevent it from the outside interventions. For example, like cows or cattle can step on it. So you have to make a fence so that no cows or dogs can come and stamp on it. So you make a fence. And at times too, not only you have to pour water for the growth of the tree, but also you need to put in some of the fertilizers, or you have to make the soil smooth, so you have to dig up the place and add in with additional fertilizers, etc. And also to prevent from the destroy of the insects, sometimes you may need to spray insecticides on that plant, And even though you have done such a lot too, when the tree started to grow, then for the growth of the tree too should be bloom to a well and full bloom tree, even the spider webs should be taken out carefully. So in that way, if you are taking care of the plants you have been growing, you have been looking after, then that tree will come into a full bloom tree, and it will bear sweet fruits that will become a useful plant to you. So this land is, if you are looking after in that manner, it will bring benefits for one. But if you just keep it like that with weeds and unuseful plants, then it will be always covered up with unuseful plants and weeds, etc. So likewise, it goes to our mind and matter, or the aggregate. As we are spending our lifespan as a being with this aggregate of mind and matter as an abode to this mind and matter, these greed, anger, and delusion are like the weeds in ourselves. So if we are not correcting or dispelling all these weeds of greed, anger, and delusion, then all the while in our mind and matter aggregate, it will be the abodes of kilesa, that is the domain of defilements. But if we are able to train or correct ourselves with proper training, then we will have pinya bhumi, or wisdom abode, or wisdom domain will be built within ourselves. So that's why Sarah explained that if we fail to note for a moment, then kilesa bhumi dwell in us. That is the abode of defilements dwell for that moment. If we note for a moment, then pinya bhumi, or wisdom abode, or wisdom domain dwell in us. So that's why to nurture the growth of Sati plantation, pinya or wisdom plantation, we need to nurture with due care and with numerous ways and means too. So that's why Sarah says to nurture these plantations of mindfulness and wisdom in ourselves, we need to make lots of prevention. As well, we need to spread over all the guards and protection in numerous ways. Only in that way we can obtain pinya bhumi, that is a wisdom abode. Sarah explained to have sati, or steadfast mindfulness, is how far we should have. We should have a sustained and continuous mindfulness in everywhere, not only in your four postures, whatever you are doing, all the activities as well, we should have mindfulness. Even while you are urinating or you are opening your bowels as well, you must be mindfully acting and observing. So in that way, if there is a continuum of mindfulness is there, then Sati power will becoming very strong. Much and more the power of mindfulness is there, then that will make your mind more pure and strong. So Sayadaw explained that as Buddha have guided that all the beings should have one kind of guard. That is, one kind of guard means none other than this Sati. So Sayadaw cited the Pali phrase, and that meaning is, in this sasana, sasana means the teaching of the Lord Buddha. So the Buddhas, whoever are in the dispensation of Lord Buddha, they are termed as bhikkhus. So bhikkhu, Sayadaw explained that, as for one who has seen the true suffering as by getting as a life or becoming as a life, one would see all the suffering and all the weaknesses in life, then one become so scared or so afraid with wisdom. So because one wants to strive very hard, this kind of urgency developed in one is not due to aversion, because the person is coward. That's why he is not thinking that way. He is having the wisdom, that seeing with that wisdom, one becomes so scared to become as a being again. So that's why that person wants to hold on to the dispensation of Buddha. So once we become as a being, however we want to live young, we are aging time and time. However we want to be healthy, we have to sick and ill. However we want to live long, we have to meet with death. So whatever from the physical suffering that have to undergo, we have to suffer from these physical suffering. Whatever the mind encounter to a kind of suffering or numerous ways of suffering, because of this presence of mind, we have the suffering. So why this mind and matter exists is because we do have this bhava or life is here. So because by becoming as a being, then all are undergoing into numerous stages of suffering. So to eradicate or liberate yourself from these kind of suffering is, we need to practice methodically or systematically. So Buddha prescribed that whomsoever seeing the suffering or scared of becoming as a being, then they are regarded as a bhikkhu. So to this word bhikkhu, Sayadaw explained that whomsoever see the suffering by becoming as a being is, those who adorn the robes, they are also bhikkhu. But with this kind of awareness from the knowledge, if occurred in man or woman too, these lay disciples too are also inclusive in bhikkhu. So whosoever they may be, whether the monks or the laymen or the women who have this kind of knowledge, then they are so afraid to become as a being again. But with that, because they are so afraid, that frightening or scared with the wisdom is not enough for a bhikkhu. But one needs to learn and practice methodically or systematically. So to become as a being, once you started to become as a being, all the several stages or numerous stages we have to undergo as suffering. So after all, as these are the suffering stages, just the continuum of the suffering stages, then we have to come to understand what are the causes of this suffering. So these suffering are due to the presence of kilesa or defilements in us. These defilements are the main cause for one to undergo the chain of suffering. So if we have to undergo the chain of suffering, we must understand that these defilements are how disgusted to have in one, how hateful and how unworthy to have in one. So in that way, if we come to see the nature of defilements, we must train ourselves to eradicate all these causes. So to eradicate these causes means we need to learn the system, how to eradicate these defilements. So after we have learned, we need to take up the practical walk, that is the Satipatthana Dhamma practice. With this Satipatthana Dhamma practice, in the beginning, in the line of our practice, we will weaken the kilesa or the defilements, and later on we will cut off parts of the defilements, and in the end we will be completely extinguishing all these defilements at one time. So to reach to the ends, to extinguish all these defilements means none other than the training of three noble training, that is Sila, Samadhi and Panya training, training of morality, concentration and wisdom. So if you have reached to the end of this path, then you would completely destroy all these causes of defilements, or you explode and dispel all these defilements within yourself. So in that way, one has to come to understand that by having this Nama-rupa process as one is how disgusting to have. So to come to the end of this Nama-rupa process, we need to find the cause, and these causes are none other than the defilements within ourselves. So as these are the causes which lead one to succumb to the lineage of suffering, then we have to eradicate them partly and then to complete eradication. So to reach to the end of this practice means we need to fulfill till we accomplish the practice of Satipatthana Dhamma practice. This Satipatthana Dhamma practice too is the one with three kinds of training. Training of morality, concentration and wisdom. So in that way, as we go on training ourselves, the innermost enemy within us, these are the defilements, we are, from moment to moment, we are making them weak. And then later on, we will be able to eradicate them completely. So, as for a bhikkhu who do really want to eradicate all these causes of suffering, then at one time, if they can pursue this Satipatthana Dhamma training, then at one time they will surely extinguish all the causes of suffering. So in the lifetime, one needs to see the deficiencies or the faults or the weaknesses or the suffering, then we will have the urge to expel all the causes. These are the defilements. So to expel all these defilements, then whether you are a monk or a layman or a woman or a deva, whomsoever have seen the causes of the suffering, they have to take up the Satipatthana Dhamma practice. Once they are within the dispensation of Buddha's teaching, then all are inclusive in this word bhikkhu. So that's why Sarah explained that as in the Pali phrase, one should have one guardianship. That guardianship is none other than. So not only to the sense of seeing, hearing, tasting, smell, but also to rising, falling, sitting, while walking, or while you are bending or stretching, or whatever the postures or whatever internal and external object you have to encounter, you just note it with or observe with mindfulness. That observation of mindfulness or Sati should be observing on the object as if it is spreading over or enveloping onto the object from the beginning to the end of the process. So in that way, you are having the security in yourself, just like you are visiting an unsafe place. If you are visiting an unsafe place, you need guard. Then you have to guard from every corner. You need to have the guards from every corner. So within us too, to have security within ourselves, then we need to have sustained mindfulness all the while, so that our life is always secure. But if we fail to do so, that moment is the time our life is insecure. So if we are visiting to any place, to have security within you, security for you, then you need to send the guards or sentry to each and every direction. Likewise, within us too, we need to be secure. So to be secure, we need to have that strong mindfulness in us. If we are able to have that strong mindfulness in us, then our life is secure. Not only it is secure, but it is strong and it is firm. And to have this firm, strong and secure quality of Sati or mindfulness within us, there are some factors or some conditions we need to have help as a help or connective factors. So that's why Sarah explained that as for a bhikkhu, bhikkhu means whomsoever wanted to liberate oneself from the line of suffering, maybe human being or Deva or Brahma, as guided by the Lord Buddha, to each and every occurrences, all the bhikkhus should dwell in with strong or Sati or mindfulness. When a being is considered as a bhikkhu, that being should abide to the two rules. That is, one is discipline and another one is duty. As for the bhikkhu or the monks, they have to abide to the conduct as a bhikkhu should follow, and what they should abstain, and what they should practice, they should practice. To take up the practice means they have to take up this Satipatthana Dhamma practice. That is to nurture and culture the mind. So whenever one is trying to join in a community or in a community as a member, then one needs to carry out the duty. If one is not carrying out the duty, or one fails to abide to the discipline, then you are not a dutiful person and you are not following in accordance with the discipline. But if you want to join a community, you must be able to abide to the discipline that are laid down, and you must be a dutiful person what you have to do. So every member in a community, each and every individual must be dutiful, and they must have the discipline. Only if they are able to endow with these dutiful qualities as well, they abide to the discipline, then when they are working for the welfare of the other, then they can carry out the work in unanimous manner. So to carry out the work in unanimous manner, each and every individual needs to have security for oneself. So Sarah gives an example that how it is important to have a security for oneself is because by seeing into this forest center, there are numerous people from numerous sects, from numerous areas. They have to take their own duty. So as this forest center is so wide that it is nearly 100 acres, so although there were fence surrounded to this, fence were made to this forest center, but at times when the security were not enough, there were some petty thieves who came in and took what they want. So Sarah says that is the time one should realize the security in this place is not enough. So to have a complete security to each and every corner, there must be a sentry or a security person must be placed. So in that way, if there is enough of security in this place, there is no more of petty thieves. No one try to trespass to this center. So they are scared because they come to know that this place is well secured. They dare not come in. So why? Because the cause is there is full of strength of security to each and every corner in the forest center is present. So that's why there is no disturbance anymore and you are staying in a secure place. Likewise, as a yogi, if we want to have a security or secure, if we want to have a security in ourselves or to make yourself secure, then we need to place a guard within ourselves so that you will have a security, and also you are hindering or protecting from the attack from outside as well inside. So in that way, as a yogi, if we realize this fact, Sarah explained, as for one who do really wish for the benefits of oneself, we have to rely on our own. We need to take refuge to oneself. So that's why, while we are in this place, we need to follow to the discipline that are laid down. And we need to be dutiful what we have to do. So to become as a well-dutiful person, as well you are following and abide to the discipline, then if a yogi follow these two rules, then you are making yourself as a secure person. As for a bhikkhu, if bhikkhu abides to the moral or the conduct what bhikkhu should observe, or a lay person, if a lay person is abiding to the conduct or the moral that a lay person should obey, then that whether that person is a bhikkhu or a lay disciple, as much as the moral or the conduct are observed, then that person's ability is shine. And not only that person's ability is shine, he has uplifted his standard as well. He is making higher than before. So that's why, as a bhikkhu or a lay person, if one follows to the discipline as we should follow, then if it is a bhikkhu, then he makes himself shine and he is uplifting his life. Or if he fails to observe all these conduct and the discipline, then because his conduct is not properly observed, then he becomes inferior and his life is dim and not shine. So likewise, as for a lay person, as for the lay disciple, if one observes the moral and the conduct one should observe as a lay disciple, he makes himself shine as a lay disciple. And opposite nature, if he didn't observe, then his life is inferior and his life is dim. So not to make oneself dim, but to make oneself shine and to uplift, whether a bhikkhu, whether a monk or a lay disciple. On top of it, one should practice Satipatthana Dhamma practice. By practicing so, as we are nurturing our mind to have maturity and to have noble mind. So if we have maturity of mind and if it becomes very firm, then we will have a strong endurance within us as well to outside. So once you have that endurance and stability of that mind, then whether you are a bhikkhu or a lay disciple, whatever you needed to abstain, you are abstaining from observing the morality. With that abstinence, not only you are bringing in the benefits for yourself, but at the same time you are bringing the benefits to your surrounding as well. Why? Because you are able to control your deeds, speech and your mind. Because there is a control in your deeds, speech and thoughts, then that discipline is very important for one to become a civilized, to attain the civilized mind or a pure mind. Once you are able to train your mind, then you become a faultless person. If you are a faultless person and no blemish in your deeds, speech and thoughts, then you become a purified person. Once you are a purified person, not only you bring in the benefits for oneself, but also, and at the same time, you bring the benefits to your surrounding. So that's why Sarah explained as it is like one blow, two shots, bringing bilateral benefits to you and to your surrounding. So this way of Satipatthana Dhamma practice, training oneself, it is not a kind of selfish walk or selfish practice, because by guarding yourself or training yourself with sila or morality, then by this foundation alone, you have controlled all the transgressional or the wild defilements not to seep as you are observing sila or morality. On top of it, as we are training our mind too, then as much as we are able to control our mind, then our mind will become mature, and the more we nurture, then it will become noble at the due time. So in that way, we will have the endurance from our mind and the threshold to be able to withstand inside as well to the outside become very strong. So in that way, this is the very important or crucial kind of practice to train oneself. So while we are taking up this meditational practice, much and more as we nurtured our mind, we develop genuine loving kindness in ourselves. We become a considerate person. As much as you are becoming noble, you want all the others to be like you, and you will have compassion too. So in that way, you are to whomsoever you have to associate to, you are a patient person, and you are able to forgive to any kind of condition you have to meet to, and you also have a considerate quality, so much so that you want other people to have the benefits as you are achieving too. So how these good qualities dwell in one is by practicing through the Satipatthana Dhamma practice, because of deeper and wider knowledge we are accumulated. So in that way, you are able to guard yourself. So if you are able to guard yourself, then you are in a secure place. You yourself become a secure person. So if you yourself become a secure person, Sayadaw says how wonderful it is to realize not only you are a secure person, you are becoming a noble person as well. So to become a noble person means only with this kind of training, because of widening and deepening your knowledge, you become a noble person. So to become a noble person, you need to do it practically. With that practice means whatever the object we have to observe, we have to note it in a practical manner as guided by the teachers. So in that way, we are having a security or a self-prevention or protection within ourselves. If we are having the self-protection within ourselves time and again, then you are making yourself improving to become a better person. To become a better person means that is because you are having a guardianship within yourself. So that's why this kind of Satipatthana Dhamma training become an important or a crucial practice to take up. So Sierra explained, come to this point to become as a noble person, then we need to understand whether you are going to choose the worldly ways or non-worldly ways. So in the Lokiya, or to become a virtuous or a prestigious person in the mundane field, then which way are you going to follow, or which kind are you going to give the top priority? So in the world we have seen so many people in the line of the education. They want to follow to get these degrees, one degree after another. And those who want to be wealthy, once they get rich, they are making more so to become richer. And once they get a higher ranking post, they are making further to become to get better posts. So in that way, worldly people are trying to get all the goodnesses or the prestigious qualities from Lokiya or mundane. But however one is looked up from the Lokiya or mundane side, but if he did have, or one did have some kind of fault, or with his conduct is impure, and he has no consideration of other, especially within his reach, if he has committed any kind of immorals, then however that person is prestigious from the pose or from the look, but he is not worthy to be praised. So that's why Sierra says, to which way of life are we going to choose? Do you want to become a prestigious person, but inner core is rotten? Or you don't have any quality of prestigious quality from outside, but your life is faultless and no blemish, and you are not hurting to oneself as well to the others. So because of this purity of life, then you become automatically you become a virtuous person. But however one is holding the prestigious post in the worldly field, but if one failed to observe any kind of morality or breakage in the morality is there, then that person is a wild and inferior kind of human being. Although you may not have any kind of worldly wealth, but you train yourself to pure from deeds, speech and thoughts, then you become a real faultless and virtuous person. So to these two ways or two kinds, which way are you going to choose? If you choose in accordance with your like, it is not proper, but you have to choose the suitable way. The suitable way to choose means it is to take up the mind training work called Satipatthana Dhamma practice. So this Satipatthana Dhamma practice is the kind to make a person to become a virtuous person, as seriously expounded by the Lord Buddha. When there is a full security is present in one is freed from any kind of disturbances. To free oneself from the disturbances mean to each and every occurrences or to each and every present moment we must be able to guard with sati, as this sati should be spreading over or covering over or enveloping over onto the object. So if we can observe and live at that present moment from present moment, then that way of living from time to time is we are getting the guardianship from sati or mindfulness. So that means that sati or mindfulness is enveloping onto ourselves. If the sati or mindfulness is spreading or covering or enveloping to oneself, then you are a secure person. Once you are a secure person, there is no more of disturbances. If you are freed from disturbances, your life is at peace. So this way of peacefulness is the only peacefulness with guarantee, and a true happiness will be obtained by one. So that's why to attain this true happiness, we need to focus to each and every occurrence with mindfulness, and if we are noting in that manner, we are having a guardianship from Sati or mindfulness, just like a guard. So Sayadaw explained this is the important fact, that is, to each and every occurrence of the present object, we must note it carefully, with due respect and attentively, so much so that that noting should be a successful noting. So only in that manner you will attain the security in yourself. So Sayadaw cited the Burmese phrase, and that is, if one is able to holds mean a major fact in Sati or mindfulness in one, then you are able to conquer all the defilements of kilesa. So in that way, if you can do a practice, you will become the conqueror to yourself, or you will become a winner of yourself. So this is the only way to attain the true happiness. Now as the time is up, Sayadaw says he comes to the conclusion of his talk, and Sayadaw blessed to all the meditators that may you all be able to practice diligently so as to achieve the guaranteed happiness that will be attained through Satipatthana Dhamma practice.